Anglers of the internet, welcome back to another Advanced Kayak Angler podcast brought to you by Fishing Online, fastest shipping on the internet. I'm your host, Kurt Smits. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Now let's get into it. Guys, gals, all the anglers out there, welcome back again. You know, we're still cold. Most places in the country are still pretty cold right now. But we got a great guest here for you tonight. Sorry, I thought I saw something on my other computer. Brady Ouellette. I just butchered his name, but he agreed to come on tonight to talk about lipless crankbaits and how to use them. And it's a great like search bait and spring bait. So it just pulls right into the season we're almost in. Brady, how you doing, man?
How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. I think I got a little bit better weather than you do, as we were talking before the podcast. This sounds like you and where in Maine are you?
Lewiston.
Lewiston.
So it's kind of central in Maine, a little bit south of
But
the
up
central
north.
area. But north, yep.
Yeah, but north, man. But north.
Nice and cold.
Yeah. So when is your typical time when you can get back on the water? Like, is that March? April? I'm just curious.
The last few years, yeah, the end of March, we've been able to get back on the water, but it's normally right around April. You know, the 1st of April.
1st of April.
I've definitely been ice fishing in April before, so it all depends on the year.
Yeah, I can only imagine, man. I know some years down here, you never know. Like even into May, like sometimes we'll get snow. You know, it's just like it's May. But I can only imagine up north too, because you guys you're affected by like the coastal weather a lot too, I assume.
Yeah, the coast sometimes they don't get much ice or snow, but when a big storm comes in, they'll get hammered with 2-3 feet of snow.
Wow.
Especially late in the year, if we get those March and April snowstorms, those are the ones that always give us 2 feet of snow.
Those are the big ones.
Those are always the big ones.
Well, keep my fingers crossed that you don't have too much bad weather coming this spring. Let's dive into it, man. I'm really curious. I use a lipless crankbait, but I don't use it a ton for bass. I use it for stripers and hybrids and just stuff on the Ohio River.
Yeah.
More than I do bass. I do use it a little bit for bass, and it's one of those topics that or one of those techniques I just want to get better at. You know what I mean? It's like I've seen people use it very effectively around me for bass, and I've always been really impressed by what a great search bait it was. Man, let's talk about how do you use it?
So it's an early spring or late fall bait for me, and a lot of the times I'm looking for 5 to 8 foot grass flats, sometimes 10 foot, and like you said, search bait. I just cast and wind and sometimes give it a pause and bump it off the grass every so often. That's probably 95% of the time how I use it.
Now, we like just fan cast those grass flats and just like hit every like angle you can from one spot.
Yeah, I got a lot of spots that I've been over the years, so I kind of know where the grass beds grow, and so I'll just position myself to make 5-6 casts, and a lot of the times, if the fish are there, you'll catch 10 to 15 fish in just one little grass clump. It can be really good bait. I've had some really good days on it.
So what's your favorite lure to use?
Probably the cotton cordell spot.
Why is that? I'm curious.
I don't exactly know why. I've always done really good with them. I like how the noise they make. They're different. I mean, every rattle or lipless crankbait has a different noise, and I like the noise they make. I'll,
what are you trying to imitate? Like, we're always trying to imitate something in nature, it seems like.
yeah.
Is there a species in particular you're trying to imitate?
Um, like the colors I like to use are the crawfish ones. So I guess
Reds,
like a
browns.
crawfish, but on those grass flats, I don't, those grass mud flats. It's not really a spot around here where there's a bunch of crawfish.
So you think it's just a reaction? They're just reacting to
Yeah,
it. It
it's
comes ripping
definitely
past them.
definitely a good reaction bite, and I'm guessing it's more of like crappie or bluegill that it's imitating golden shiners.
Ohio River, everything everything's based around shad pretty much. There's some shiner action in that happens, but man, predominantly it's shad. It's You're always looking for that shad bite, and I always like the red eye shads from Strike King, but I'm more vertically, I'm like casting them out and hopping them off the bottom. I'm letting them sink to the bottom and using them almost like a blade bait. You
Okay,
know,
yeah.
I'm not using them like over a grass flat. And I don't think I've ever like really mastered that technique of using them over a grass flat, like casting it out, letting it get in there and ripping them out. I got a buddy, Mitchell White, and I saw him when we were fishing together and he was using one, and man, he was just wearing them out. And I was having a hard time getting a bite, and it was just such a stark difference. So, like, what are some tips for using that bait like over grass, whether it's like the rod and reel, or just how are you fishing it?
Um, Tip number one, I guess, is what I let it get tangled up in the grass and then just rip it out. And I've had fish, that bait's full of grass, and I've had fish just swallow it. Um, yeah, a lot of the times I just let it sink to like hit bottom, like the first cast, just to get a feel of how far to let it drop before you start cranking it in. And yeah, just a steady retrieve, and sometimes pause it and give it a good jerk, or once you hit like a stalk of milfoil or cabbage, just rip it out of that. And that's where I usually get a lot of the bites, is once you rip it out off the grass.
So, with you ripping it out, I'm assuming your rod's a little stouter than like a moderate rod. What kind of rod are you using?
Probably, I'm trying to think. I'm bad with switching up rods sometimes, but 7.6, probably medium heavy, but it has to have like a decent tip, like a faster tip, not too fast, but just so when you rip it out, I don't know, get a nice bend on the rod.
Right, right.
But you want that backbone. If a fish does hit it, you can get the slack real fast and get a good hook in them.
So, like when you throw it out there and you let it drop, and then you're reeling it back in, then you let it drop again into the weeds. How long are you pausing there? Like, are you letting it sit on the weeds, or are you just letting it just touch the weeds and then ripping it out?
Yeah, just kind of letting it touch the, like, just when I'm steady retrieving, just a quick stop and then start again, or you stop it and then you just bump your rod, and it's not a super long pause.
Keeping it quick, keeping it moving. It sounds like.
Yep.
Wow, man. So, what kind of line are you using?
Cigar, Vizex, 12 pound
12 pound. So,
fluorocarbon.
so not super heavy.
Nope, not super heavy. I found I like the action of the bait on the 12. I used to use 15 a lot, but that 12 is just a little bit more flimsy for the bait to move. Get a good vibration off that bait.
Yeah, yeah. There's something about dialing in that line weight for certain baits too. I mean, it
Yep.
really does. Like, there's certain baits that 2 pounds can make or break the action.
Yeah, and the casting distance. I mean, I know the cotton godel spot is a lot lighter than, let's say, the red eye shad. So casting it, I can get a farther cast with the 12-pound than with a 15.
Yeah, yeah, and that's like super important, right? Because
Yep.
if you're covering the grass flat, if you can't get across the grass flat, you're not effectively using your time.
Yeah.
Um, because I tend to tournament fish a fair amount, so for me, a lot of times it's just time management. Whether I'm
Oh, definitely.
pre-fishing or during the tournament, you're just trying to, you know,
Yep.
are they here? Are they not here?
Yeah, definitely. Time management's a huge thing in the tournament.
So what weight lure do you use?
I'm trying to think how big the cotton cordell spot is. I don't know. I think it's like 3/8 ounce.
3/8. Okay.
It's either 3/8 or half. I don't think it's half ounce. I can't really remember.
I haven't used that particular one, so I don't know myself.
Yeah,
But so it's 3/8 or a half, right? I mean that's pretty close. I mean, I actually tend to use smaller ones than that. It's interesting.
I've used them all the way up to
Differently though.
all the way up to 3/4 ounce. I know I have a bunch of the old Excalibur rattle
Yeah,
traps. Those used to be one of my favorites.
yeah, yeah.
I
Man,
kind of save those for special occasions because I don't want to lose them.
I know, I know. I mean, I don't know why they stopped making them, man. Because they everybody liked them. I don't know a single person who liked to fish that style bait who didn't like them.
So the knockoff of them now is the Booyah.
Oh,
They kind of like remade Excalibur.
really? So if you like the Excaliburs, you can go out and get a Booyah.
Yeah, because I used to like their jerk baits also. The 100 size. I can't remember the first couple letters in front of it, but I got a bunch of those stashed away.
The way, man, I know. I had a buddy who liked a certain color bait, and when they discontinued it, he called like every tackle store in the country, and he found one that had like it had like I forget how many they had, like a whole box in the back, right, or something, and he bought the whole box because he knew that they were just gone, and so you got to get that stuff. So
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say yeah. I bought a bunch of spots, same color. Not a color that I use, but I ended up sending them out to a guy that custom makes them or custom spray paints them. And I had a color that I couldn't find anymore, like recreated.
honestly, I think that's one of the coolest things that's happening in fishing is that we got so many small guys now that are doing custom work that there's almost one close to everybody. There's
Yep.
there's like one guy somewhere who's willing to do that because that's what I do. There's certain colors that sometimes you just can't get them, or they're discontinued that you're really popular that you're a fan of. And I got two buddies now that are paint them, so I just call those guys up and
Yep.
they hook me up. Now, when you're fishing that lipless crank, are you only using it for a search bait, or are you using it to, like when you target, I don't know, some other type of structure besides like a grass flat?
Sometimes like rip wrap, like bridges and stuff. We don't have too much of that, but some of the bridges do have a bunch of rip wrap. That works good. Sometimes like I do pretty good with them on smallmouth around here when they're up shallow in the springtime feeding hard. They'll hit a rattle trap a little bit better than like a chatterbait, I find.
I
And just
like.
the rattle trap itself's more shaped like a bait fish. So I feel like they hit that a little bit better sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of fish are visual, and if you're in an area with clear water at all or clearish water,
Yep.
that makes all the difference, man. Is matching that. Wow. So, what would you say the number two bait is? If it's not a spot,
Bill Lewis.
Bill Lewis. Really,
Yep.
really interesting. Interesting.
Yep.
I
I'm
have.
not I'm not a fan of the red eye shads. I have them. I just something about that big eye.
Well, how I'm fishing them is just so different because I am the red eye shad falls straight down really good, right? It has a really good wobble going straight down, and I'm fishing them so significantly more vertically, or I'm casting out. And for me, it's like almost exclusively a winter bait, fall, winter, early spring bait for me. Because I'm fishing the bottom, so I'll throw them way out, hit the bottom. I'll just kind of lazy hop them off the bottom type thing.
Yeah,
So it's a totally different action than
yeah,
burning it over grass.
yeah,
And it's got
yeah,
me thinking about the differences in. I didn't even realize that there was going to be like a difference in the action as much as it seems like I'm kind of picking up here.
yeah. Yeah, normally if I'm fishing like how you're fishing, I'm fishing a blade bait.
And that's the other thing I'll have tied on that I'll be fishing exactly like it. The only difference is that the red eye shad has a slower fall rate.
Yeah,
So and I can manipulate the red eye shad a little easier than I can a blade bait, like, because sometimes I'll put on heavier hooks or lighter hooks, and it changes not only the rate of fall but how much it kind of moves around. You put a lighter hook on there, and that thing kind of swims around as it goes down.
yeah,
But then you're always risking like losing fish, because I'm fishing hybrids and stripers, and they're such hard fighters that when you put that small of a hook on, it then becomes a risk, right? I mean, it's like you want that action, but you really want that good hookup at the same time, right?
yeah, yeah. Because
Right.
those hybrids are powerful.
So,
Hybrid stripers, yeah.
so are you just exclusively using that pretty much around vegetation? Because I had another friend who I was having a conversation with about before the show, and that's the only place he uses it. He said.
Yep, yeah, pretty much it's just grass flats that I know, like, in the summer, I'll fish a chatterbait around, but that's just that early spring, it's just seems like the rattle trap does better, at least up in Maine here.
I think a lot of places it plays in really big, man. I know, like on Gunnersville, I've seen some guys. Yeah, I mean, in the early spring, rattle trap when the grass hasn't topped out, right? And
Yep.
there's like room in there to move it. Um, I've watched them and just do really well with it. And they were using, something kind of like the shape of the lures you're talking about, right? It wasn't a red eye. They weren't using red eye shads at all, which is like that's all I have in my box. I think maybe I need to change that up a little bit. You know,
And I mean, I know a few guys that swear by the red eye shads doing it the way I'm fishing it.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just assumed that it would be fished that way. I mean, it wasn't how I've used it or how I do use it, but I just assumed that people use it that way. And I tried, but I never had much luck with it. So maybe changing it up a little bit, because there's plenty of places with grass and isolated, where there'll be just a big grass flat that's isolated all by itself, and then one little ways down from it.
Sometimes it's just finding that right little pocket. I know a place that I hit early spring and it has one little ditch, and that's where the fish are always stacked up on.
Are you using electronics at all to find the fish, or are you just coming through an area and you're like, okay, there's a grass flat, I'm gonna
Yeah,
whip it?
sometimes side imaging to find if the grass is taller, to find the bigger, but most of the time it's just over the years what I've learned from fishing out of guys like I was a co-angler for years at the back of boats, and fishing with my boss that I work for in the summer. He's a really good angler, and learning from him, I've learned some spots on certain lakes. So I don't have like live scope yet. I only have down imaging, side imaging, regular 2D sonar.
I don't even know if it would help you in that situation.
I mean, like,
It might help you like pinpoint exactly where a grass line is, you know? Like
yeah,
you can say it's 12 and a half feet in front of me, right? It may, but like I don't know if you're going to really see the fish in the like it
no, I
you can't
mean,
see into the grass, you know what I mean? I'm a live scope guy. I got live scope, and it's like you can't see into grass. There's a lot of misconceptions I feel like about it. A lot of people act like
yeah.
you can see everything. It's
I guess when I'm talking about grass, it's not super thick. You got just strands of it, so you would be able to see
I gotcha.
fishes. Um, I think live scope would help a lot finding those little subtle ditches on
Yep.
the flats. If your flat's 4 or 5 feet, and then you get something that goes 7 to 8 real fast, those are the spots that would definitely help out.
Yeah. I tell you, I use it more like that than I am actually picking out individual fish.
And I'm working on getting it this winter.
Yeah.
I know a bunch of the guys back in Maine aren't gonna like me, but I'm gonna be one of the last guys to get it.
It's cool. And it really helps you line up those. Like if you're fishing something that's really small in a big area, it just helps you keep your cast like directly on it.
Yeah,
Like you just know which direction it is. It really
yeah.
tightens up your.
And that's what I want. I want it as a tool. I don't want to just sit there and drown myself for one day, for in the tournament on one fish.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to be able to look at spots, and if I notice fish there, and even if I don't see any fish, take a few casts, and if nothing, I just want to get out of the spot and go back to time management. That's what I want to use it for.
Mhm. You just have to be disciplined, man. If you're not a disciplined person, then you will sit there because, man, I've seen it where fish just react to it just enough to keep you there,
Yeah.
right? Like you're about to go, you cast at them, and then they like turns and swirls, and like you didn't feel anything, but it almost hit it, you know. And then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I got to make another cast. Sometimes you just gotta
Yeah, I've definitely played
gotta.
around with it on other buddies' boats and stuff, and I get where it's addicting, and that one fish that actually makes a reaction but doesn't hit it, you want to catch it, but
Yeah,
like
and
like you said,
and
discipline.
and obviously there's some pros who have done exactly what we're talking about, fished one fish and got them to bite, and it really paid off for them. But it's not always that way.
Yeah,
It may actually be more so up where you're at. I feel like you almost need clearer water to have it be even more effective, like as a fishing tool when you're fishing one individual fish.
yeah, and I mean we have a lot of lakes with alewives, which is like a shad, and you get on a body of water with a bunch of smallmouth. They'll be suspended in 60 feet of water on those bait balls, and that's where it really helps out. You can find those bait balls.
And know exactly how deep they are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now that's interesting. So, you never throw lipless crankbait in that situation?
Nope.
God, see,
If it if it
I would
was
be chucking one out there right then, man.
so, I guess the way I smallmouth fish, so like the spring and fall, same thing. They're in deeper water. The smallmouth are pretty much schooled up and either on bait or on structure. And we 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 use blade baits because you can pretty much almost guarantee to catch them. If you can get one to bite, you can get a lot of them to bite. So I think just with a blade bait, getting down there faster.
And yeah, because I mean, it's hard to. I
But
mean, they shoot straight down.
yeah, and so you can get to 40 feet of water really fast.
Yeah, I didn't
It's
think of
interesting.
that.
I want to cast a rattle trap now at those same fish and see. I want to I
I,
want to try. I want to try the way you fish it now.
yeah, because that's exactly when I will bust one out for bass. Is that exact situation? I'm in 30, 40 feet of water or less. I mean, it could be
Yep.
20 feet, right? It could be
Yeah.
20,
Yeah.
it could be 10 and 20 feet. but there's big bait balls and there's fish chasing them. It'll either be like a swim bait for me or a lipless, because I can
Yep.
get the lipless down there. You know what I mean? I can work it up and down and work it through their column of water that they're in. Or
And I can see where the lipless might be a little bit better if they're really busting on bait, because you have that bait that's getting hit and dying. They're not falling to the bottom fast. You know, they're just drifting down there, you know,
kind of
knocked
moving a
out. Or
little bit. Yeah.
yeah, so lipless would be better for that because it doesn't fall as fast.
Yeah, you should try it, man. You might be surprised. You might even like a red eye shad in that situation.
I'll try it for sure. I'm always game to try anything new. I try to be versatile.
Yeah, I mean that's really the name of the game, is being able to know when and where to switch it up and into what. So give us some juice, man. What's some juice? What's some of your little things you do that maybe other people don't do?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't really change the bait up much. Sometimes I change the hooks out, but the cotton cordell spot really comes with cheap mustad bronze hooks. And I do normally like to change those, but a lot of the times I just take it out of the package, tie it on, throw it. And I never have a problem with losing fish.
Yeah,
I
those
just
are actually not a bad hook.
they're not a bad hook. I guess for me is I just don't like the look of them. They just look cheap.
Yeah.
Cheap and chintzy, and I just didn't I don't like it.
Anything gold or bronze, man, when it's hooks does look cheap, man.
Yep.
Even though they're not bad hooks, they're not bad hooks at all.
Nope.
Because that's one of the things I find I have to do with like the red eye shads, man. I have to cut the hooks off of all of them. I
Yeah.
can't stand the hooks that come on, man. They bend, or I've just gotten picky over the years with the hooks on especially treble baits.
Yep.
Anything with treble hooks on it, it's like I want a certain hook. You kind of get used to how you play a fish on those hooks too, right?
Yeah. Um what kind of hook do you like switching onto your red
My
eye?
my favorite is a Mustad triple grip, either the short shank ones or the ones that are a little bit longer.
Yep.
It depends on the bait they're coming off of, right?
Yeah.
Um, but nothing against Strike King, but I just think their hooks they use are just. I'm just not a fan of them.
I will say some of these companies, the hooks they put on their baits, it's makes you scratch your head sometimes.
Yeah, I know, right? Right. And I get that, you're trying to hit a certain price point, but I mean, it's like, come on,
True.
guys,
Yeah.
let's step it up just a little bit, I mean, it's only the most important part of once the fish is attracted to it, is only the most important part of the whole
Yeah.
bait. Is what keeps
Totally.
it on, man.
But yeah, I don't really have anything that's like top secret. I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
don't. It's just a chuck and wind, and I twitch it every so often, or I yank it off grass. Um,
Would you
maybe
say it's just a bait you just have to throw a lot?
yeah, yeah. You got to throw and get some hits. Get a couple fish, get confidence with it. Because
Figure
once
out
you
how they're
learn,
biting it.
yeah,
Look for
because
ditches, I assume, right? Look for a ditch or a rock pile and round some grass.
yeah. I guess that's what was I just gonna say?
I know a
Totally
lot of
lost.
the a lot of the grass that I deal with, man, it's just it's like milfoil, right? A lot of it, and that's why I end up looking for is milfoil.
Mhm.
So they it's usually kind of dense for the most part, So maybe
Yeah,
I'm looking for the wrong grass.
yeah. We have a few different kinds of grass, and it all depends on the lake. Um, some lakes have this brown leafy grass that we call cabbage. The edges of that can be really good. Same thing, milfoil. What's the other one? I guess it's just like the little dollar sign, the little dollar pads.
Yeah, yeah.
Their little string. If you can find some of those, like there's always there's always some patches spring where there's a couple of those that have grown up because of like the sun in the springtime. If you can find those little patches, those can hold fish, even though it's not much structure. I think just that the bait fish hold around them pretty good.
Yeah, and the fish we're after eat bait fish, so it's like, man, that's all you need to find is the bait
Yeah.
fish. Um, wow, man, I think we've covered quite a bit of the bait really quickly tonight.
Yeah, I wish I had more secrets. I don't have
Well,
know that.
sometimes that's just the reality of it. It's just finding, and it really sounds like to me, just talking to you tonight, that it's finding those little differences in a grassy area.
Yeah.
The depressions.
Yeah, there's so much studying you can do like just out fishing. Like I'll be fishing that rattle trap, but I'll be like looking at my fish finder while I'm like drifting with the wind or I always have the side imaging or my 2D on. And I'm always just marking grass beds or little drops, little pieces of wood that I see. Like I'll fish a grass flat that I don't even catch a fish on and I'll have 50 waypoints on it.
Man after my own heart, man. you know and honestly, now thinking about it, just sitting here thinking about it, so much of the last couple years talk has been about forward facing sonar. So much of the search bait, the qualities of a good search bait have been, I don't want to say taken away, but I think that people haven't been paying enough attention to it. Like they're looking at their screen more versus taking the lipless out and just fan casting.
Yeah.
They know weeds are there, they don't know if fish are there or not, and just spending some time fan casting stuff like that. I think a lot of people, um, that would be very helpful for it, and myself included, because sometimes, when I get caught up in the time management thing, like, well, especially if I feel like I don't have a lot of time, I spend so much time running around looking that making some casts would probably be a good idea.
Yeah.
You know,
Um yeah, I've noticed that up here. I've always I try to be versatile. I like throwing like a frog and I'll go and throw a 10XD in the next hour. And I found that like the shallow fishing, a lot of people have just left the bank.
yeah, right.
And I'm just like, what are you guys doing? Like, I know there's deep fish out there, but not they don't always want to bite. And sometimes blind casting, it seems you'll get bites more than just staring at the forward facing sonar.
Yeah, because you can't see every fish.
No.
Sometimes the fish is just so close to structure, that it just looks like a bump.
Yeah.
It looks like a small rock or something, and that's it. Yeah. So what's your backup lure? So you go through and you throw that lipless crank, you catch your 10, 12 fish, right? What do you throw after that? Do you go back in there with like a Senko or anything?
Jackhammer.
Wow, you're following up the lipless crankbait with a jackhammer.
I don't throw many Senkos, and if I do, I'm dock fishing.
Wow. I was
I
not expecting that at all, because I feel like the lipless crankbait and a jackhammer are very similar reaction baits. Not similar but how you would fish them around grass, I feel like is very similar.
Now, if I was gonna throw
Uh,
like a slower bait, you said like a Senko, it would probably be just like a pegged beaver style, like a 3/8 ounce or a half ounce pegged beaver style bait.
so you kind of start pitching and flipping almost
Yeah.
into the grass versus throwing something like a Senko or a fluke or anything.
Yeah. I've done my fair share of throwing flukes. I've kind of stepped away from it the last 10 years, maybe. Used to use it a lot. I just so many different types of types of ways to fish, you just forget about some techniques.
And they stop eating the lipless crank, the spot, that they'll eat the jackhammer. I'm still stuck on that, man.
Yeah, sometimes just it can be even a color change on a spot, and they'll like pick up again. Sometimes I don't even have to change the style of bait, just colors. I mean, I've had tournaments on like grass flats. I've had 5 different colors of jackhammers tied on, and when they stopped one color, I just picked up the other rod, and they started biting it again.
That's really interesting, man, because a lot of people don't do that.
There's a lot of people that stick to the same color, and I'm one of them. Like a jig, straight black jig fisherman. A lot of
Yep.
times, like that's my go-to. I know green pumpkin works. I know black and blue. A lot of the times, I like black, and I don't see much of a difference. Sometimes I do switch up, but there's a lot of times it's my first go-to is just a black jig.
Man, it's amazing how much that, for whatever reason about jigs, is the black jig, just straight black, no blue,
Yeah,
even just a straight black jig.
it's
Yeah. And
it's
I've always
crazy.
been, and I have never been able to like explain it because you don't see a lot of straight black things in nature that are just,
Yeah, no,
you see
yeah,
dark crayfish, but I've never seen like a black one, this like straight black one. Now, maybe there are some places in the country, maybe there are, um, but around me, I've personally never seen a straight jet black crawfish.
no. I mean,
And that's what we're imitating, right? We throw
yeah,
a jig is a crawfish. Yeah,
um, yeah. Up here, it's a lot of like red, orange to brown crayfish. Not, they do get dark, but it's normally like a dark brown.
yeah. That's what
I mean,
that's what I see. I see dark brown, and they almost get to the point of green, like a brownish
yep,
green pumpkin, almost around me a little bit. I wish they were more colorful. Some other places I've seen that have some really interesting.
yeah,
I was in upstate New York, and they were like just red, like straight red crawdads, and it was really kind of cool to see.
yeah. Um, what was I gonna say? Man, I'm bad tonight. Forgetting everything. Have something good and I forget it.
So, and it's interesting that you're not matching the color of bait fish either. You
No,
are using like reds and browns, right?
yeah, I'm using trying to think of the name of the color. But yeah, it's a lighter red, cream on the bottom of it, a cream color. Not quite white, but and it's just like a typical. It's almost like I want to say it's like the original spot color. It's just like it just looks like a crayfish. I'm not using. I hate using any of the rattle traps that are chrome with a black blue back, and those are like your typical, or even gold back. Those are your typical bait fish.
Yeah.
I don't do good with those colors. And I've thrown them when I've thrown them. Sometimes you can get a midsummer rattle trap bite, and you would think like midsummer, there's a lot of bait fish swimming around, golden shiners, alewives. I can't do those colors. I don't like them.
Wow, man. That's kind of eye opening to me too, because like when you go and look at them, those are the colors you see. You
Those are the
see
ones
the
that everybody,
chrome,
yeah,
blue back, black back on the chrome. You see the dirty chrome, the gold chrome. I mean, just yeah.
my favorite color that it was custom made. I got it from my boss, and it was purple,
Purple.
and I caught so many fish on that, and I got a couple made up because I was like, I can't. He gave us one, and I'm like, do you? And after I went to championship down in Connecticut for a tournament, and I ended up getting second on that, hitting milfoil stalks and just ripping it off of that. And it was tough fishing. The first half of the day, I don't even know if I had a fish. And the wind picked up just a little bit, which the wind is key for rattle traps, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Well, a little bit of broken water on the surface.
And I tied on that purple rattle trap, and I think it was a Bill Lewis. I think he got him custom made in the Bill Lewis. But yeah, I brought that back home, that purple one, and I started using it a lot because I got a little bit of confidence from that tournament, and I wore the paint right off that thing in 1 year.
So, what do you think that's imitating, man? That's not like. I mean, is there anything purple around you that lives in the water?
I mean, I guess it could be like a smelt. We have smelt in some lakes. They do have that blue purple color, but it's not even like the body style of a smelt. So I don't know. I mean, it looked good.
And that's all it takes, man. Because you know what, these fish aren't going through a big rationalization on what they're looking at. They're like, can I eat it or can I? You know,
I try to tell a lot of beginners. I'm like, stop. This bait looks great for fishing, and this bait looks really good, and all the custom paintings, which they do look good and all that, but it's like some of my best lures are just over the years so chipped up and grinded and barely any paint showing.
Yeah, I mean, especially on a reaction bite, I feel like a lot of it's the movement of the bait probably more than the color.
Yeah.
Unlike a finesse worm that you'd be fishing really slow and the fish is looking at it for a long period of time before it bites it.
Yeah.
These guys are like, what's that? Boom.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing, is the reaction. They're not really stalking baits. And I mean, I'm not 100% sure they're not stalking the baits because you could see that on like forward facing sonar. But I think a lot of the times you're just bringing it by those weeds, and they're just turning and gulping and taking it down.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're instinctual creatures. They're really heavy thinkers.
No.
I think sometimes we give them a little too much credit.
Yeah, and sometimes we put too much into it. It's almost like using all these different baits when you just go back to a black jig. And I mean, some of the water up here is crystal clear. You can see 20 feet down without glasses, like polarized glasses.
Wow.
And I'll fish a black jig in those waters, and you would think, why wouldn't you fish a green pumpkin or a brown, something more natural? But sometimes just those, I don't know, the color thing. I know growing up I was always told clear water, use more natural colors, but sometimes the non-natural colors are the ones that.
Exactly. It's like those stupid, excuse me, I don't mean to call them stupid, pink lures, right? When you see people using pink lures and they're catching fish on them, I'm like, there's just nothing that's pink.
Yeah, back in my bass club, we had a guy, early spring. He would do really good with smallmouth. And this is before they're bedding. It's like this time that I'm using the rattle trap. He's throwing pink flukes on those grass flats, and he would hammer smallmouth. And we would make fun of him for it, but he would come in with, 14, 15, 16 pounds for 5 fish, smallmouth.
That's good for smallmouth too, man. Yeah.
We have some dandy smallmouth.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing pink around, right? There's not like a pink alewife running around.
No,
right?
yeah, I mean, yeah, just bubblegum, zoom, flukes.
Yeah. That drives me crazy every time I see it happening and working. I'm just like, because like so much of what I do is like match the hatch, like in my mind, and what I do and what I've been successful with has always been like, what kind of bait fish does that lake have? I'm always like breaking it down by the bait fish. I try to get a hold of a local, and I'm like, so what colors are your all wives? What colors are your gizzard shad? Is it that blue or is it that green kind of,
Yep.
I get so caught up in that, and some dude comes along with a pink freaking Senko and smashes a giant right in front of me with a freaking pink Senko. I'm just
Yep.
like,
And I've tried those, and I've never had luck, and I'm just like, I don't know why I bought these.
I buy them and I throw them for like 2 seconds.
Yep.
And then I'm like, I can't. I just can't. I just put them down
I
and
put them
go
down, just
right
pick
back
up.
to the colors I like.
Yep. Pick up that black jig. Just
Yeah,
throw it.
exactly. uh, so your backup lure is a jackhammer to the rattle trap.
Yep. In
Wow.
that scenario.
In that scenario, would you fish the rattle trap around docks at all? Just curious.
No. I mean, I have sometimes in the early spring, just, where got a dock in the, instead of picking up a jig to throw for a couple casts, I would just throw the trap over there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I've had too much success doing that.
Yeah, you weren't like, you're not really targeting the docks so much with it.
No. And the time of year I'm doing, there's really not many docks in the water. A
Oh,
lot
I
of people.
guess for you guys, yeah, you guys take your docks out.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Most people do.
that changes things a little bit.
Yep.
A lot of the docks I fish are like permanent. They
Oh
never
yeah.
take a minute or out, and then
Yeah, we don't have
they
much of
just
that
do.
just because that ice does some damage on docks.
Yeah, I mean, I was in Wisconsin fishing a tournament, and you know, I had never spent any time in the water that far north fishing before, and all their docks, the ones that were permanent, had these. They were bigger than telephone poles driven in front of them. They were just like
Yeah.
these monster pieces of rounded, like pylons, I guess is what they
Pylons. Yep.
were, right? Just big giant pylons. And I was talking to him, I'm like, what is this all about, man? I mean, is there big boat traffic on this little tiny like river? And he's like, oh no, man, that's for the ice. And it didn't even occur to me like their ice is so much thicker and devastating to their.
Yeah. And yeah, if there is docks left, that's what they have, those bigger telephone pole type pylons.
Yeah, yeah. Um, well, man, is there anything that we're missing that we should let everybody know about, or did we cover everything? We covered a lot of stuff tonight.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we covered a lot. Um, no, I don't really know. That's all. That's all I got for secrets. Not too many. Not too many.
Not too many, man. It just sounds like if you're listening and you're trying to get better at the trap, throw it more
Yeah,
and
yeah.
use it as a search bait.
Yeah, I use it a lot for a search bait.
Yeah, yeah. Use it what it's meant for.
Yep.
Is there any sponsors or family that you want to thank?
I guess I'll thank my fiance Abby for taking care of our daughter right now, so I have the time to talk. And
Well, we
because I'm
thank her,
sure,
man, because we
yeah,
appreciate you coming on.
yeah, I'm sure my daughter's wondering where I am right now. This is her time with me.
uh, well, thanks for
But
spending some time with us this evening, man. I think some people will find this pretty interesting out there. Brady, do you have like a Facebook page or anything that you want to throw out there, or Instagram or anything?
no, I got just my personal Facebook page. Um, Nothing crazy. I don't have any sponsors or anything like that. I don't search too much for them.
Right, right. Just out fishing, having a good time.
Yeah, I like staying local in Maine. I've traveled a little bit, but don't have the time to travel much anymore. Not with got an 18-month-year-old, so she keeps me busy.
Yeah, hell yeah, she does. I see on your shirt, girl dad.
Yeah, girl dad.
I love it. I love it. Well, thanks again for coming on tonight. I'm gonna shut us down, and thanks for everyone for listening.